I never know when this thing is actually starting. Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. Marlene Morris, and welcome to Spirit Central. I like to think of this as your weekly spiritual spa, your Sunday spiritual indulgence. We're here to help you feel better if you're feeling bad, and to help you feel even better if you're already feeling pretty fine. And we can serve as a spiritual urgent care if that's what you happen to need on any given day. You know, the founder of the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, used to open his television show with the words, "There is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it." So true. But, and the greater truth is that you can't not use it. In fact, you're using it right now. You use it all the time because it is done unto you in this lifetime as you believe. The important part of Dr. Holmes' admonition was to use that power for good. So I'm going to ask you to take a moment now and kind of go within for a moment and consider this idea. We are here to remember who we are. We are children of creation. We are here to remember that we are created in the image and likeness of God, life, the force, creation, whatever you choose to call the creative motivating force of the universe. And I frankly don't think it cares what you call it. We are here to heal our misconceptions and to release whatever beliefs we may be holding that no longer serve us. We are here to learn how to use our divine inheritance to make our lives and our world a better place. Ultimately, we are here to be awake, to live, to inspire, to create, to uplift, to heal, and to make whole ourselves and our world. That's quite an undertaking, and so that's why we're here to kind of help you with that process. Now, I like to get you thinking right from the get-go because the very last thing I want you to do is to leave your brain at the door. Bring it along. So, here's today's question. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are? Now, I wish I'd been the first person to think that question. I don't. I'm not. But I do happen to think that it's brilliant. Satchel Paige beat me to it, and so we'll give him credit. Brilliant question. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are? And, you know, that transposes to other things. How well would you be if you didn't know how sick you are? How happy would you be if you didn't know how, fill in the blank, you are? See, I know that on some days I'm shocked when I look at my driver's license. Not the picture. Those, by the grace of the DMV, always seem to make me look pretty good. I've lucked out over the years. But when I look at the age it suggests, I say suggests because some days, in spite of what it says on that little card, I feel like I'm 35. And on other days, I feel like I'm pushing 85. So I often wonder what my answer to Satchel Paige's question would actually be if I didn't know how old the calendar says I am. How old would I be if I didn't know how old I am? And how would I feel about that? I've chosen to read another holiday story today, one that may have been written for children, but which I think speaks even more clearly to grown-ups. I read a children's story last week and asked you to bring your inner child to the party, to be as a little child. This week, I'm going to ask you to bring your inner elder. Go ahead. Allow yourself to feel just as tired and old as you want to feel today, or just as tired and old as you felt maybe at some time this week or this lifetime. Your choice. And be open to the message of this interestingly special story. And then when the story's over, let's chat about how what I've read might just help you reconsider your answer to today's question. Stick with me. Let's just see where this all goes, shall we? So, I've always loved children's Christmas stories. I loved them when I was a child, and I loved them when I was raising my children, and I love them still. They are nearly always short and sweet and to the point, and about hope and love. So when I was ministering at the Unity Church in Cambria, the number of times the children came out and told us that they were studying in children's church, and it turned out to be the same thing that we had just talked about in grown-up church, well, it was just amazing. So one Sunday in December, the children's church director, Nancy, and our guiding light, Nancy and I decided to do it on purpose, to purposely teach the same lesson. She had already picked out a great story, so I said, okay, we'll both go with it. And this is the story we told. It's called The Last Straw, and it's written by Frederick Thury and illustrated by Vlasta van Kempen, and the illustrations are wonderful. It's the story of an old camel and the power of the season and the inner power that is released when we speak our word and mean it. But you don't need my words. Let's let the author tell you the story. And I want to show pictures as I go along because the illustrations really are just wonderful. There's the first. I'll get this right, I will. Hashmakaka, the old camel, was asleep in the desert night. He dreamed of all the water in the world and a hump that would hold an entire sea, which I guess is a great dream if you're a camel. Hearing voices, Hashmakaka opened one eye. Hashmakaka. Hashmakaka. Reluctantly, Hashmakaka opened the other eye. Why should I wake up? He grumbled. Why? The sand whirled up into the moonlit sky. You have been chosen, the voices whispered. You have been chosen. The sand seemed to shift again, and the voices said, you will carry gifts to a baby king. Who are you? Hashmakaka wanted to know. But he was an old camel, and he felt like he had earned his sleep. You will carry frankincense, myrrh, and gold. The wise men have chosen you. Hashmakaka got up very slowly. Why me? If these men are so wise, don't they know about my joints, my gout, my sciatica? What did you say I am to carry? How much will it weigh? Besides, I have other commitments. There's a water drinking competition in Tanagal, and then I really must go to the cud chewing convention in Beamish. The sand blew furiously, cutting into the black night. Hashmakaka was startled and decided that he'd better do as the voices said. Who knew what made the sand move like that? Like creatures with great wings. When do I start? He asked carefully. Today. And with that, the sand voices disappeared, and it was morning. It was still early as the servants of the wise men came and placed the precious gifts onto Hashmakaka's back. The young camels ran to their good friend. They all looked up to him because he was old, and they thought he must be wise. "You must be a very special camel," they sighed. "I am very special, camel." Hashmakaka puffed out his chest in pride and then something a little foolish. "I'm not so old. I'm still as strong as 10 horses, and I have been chosen to carry rich gifts to the new baby king." Haven't we all done that? Puffed our chest out and denied what we've just said to ourselves or to someone else? "Can we come too?" asked the youngest camel, who never wanted to be left behind. "Aren't we your friends?" shouted another camel. "You can walk beside me," Hashmakaka replied in his most regal voice, and the long, long journey began. At noon, a herd of mountain goats came into view. Hashmakaka thought that they had come a long way from their mountain home in the north. "What is it you want?" Hashmakaka called out. "We have heard tell of the new king who is to be born. Please take our humble gift with you. It is milk for the king." "You want me to carry milk?" Hashmakaka sputtered in shock. "I'm not a milk-bearing camel. I'm not ordinary like you." The young camels chorused, "No, he is not ordinary." They looked up to him with their big brown eyes. "He is strong. Why, he's as strong as 10 horses." Hashmakaka muttered to himself, "My joints, my gout, my sciatica." But aloud he said grandly, "Give me your gift." At 1 o'clock he was stopped by a family of millers. "Look," said the youngest camel, "they're carrying bags of ground corn. Do you suppose they're for the new king?" "They will have to carry it themselves," Hashmakaka replied. "They can follow that star just like the rest of us." But then the young camels crowded around Hashmakaka eagerly. "But you're so strong. You're as strong as 10 horses." Hashmakaka felt weary just looking at the bags. But he said to the millers, "Give me your heavy bags. I'll carry them." At 2 o'clock the next day, young ladies gave Hashmakaka their fine silks. "At least the cloth doesn't weigh anything," he thought. At 3 o'clock, an old man in fine clothes gave him 2 rare birds in silver cages. At 4 o'clock, some merchants gave him pillars of oak that came all the way from Lebanon. At 5 o'clock, a group of bakers gave him their finest sweetmeats and pastries. At 6 o'clock, the sun finally went down, and the crowds melted into the coming night. Hashmakaka gratefully sank into the sand. In the kind darkness, he didn't have to pretend he was as strong as 10 horses. Hashmakaka became aware that it didn't seem as dark as usual. He looked up and saw the splendor of the skies and the special brightness of the star that they had been following. And he fell asleep wondering about the sand voices and the wings he had thought he could almost see. But as the sun rose over the desert hill, it was hard to remember the wonder of that star. The new day brought new pains and new burdens for Hashmakaka. "I don't think I will make it. I can't carry any more," My legs are getting weaker. My gout, my sciatica, my joints. I'm too loaded down. Word of the caravan had spread like sand before a desert wind. People had lined the route, holding up their gifts for Hashmakaka to take to the baby king. There were jars full of honey and baskets of money, and there were jewels and beads and large rolls of leather, and last but not least, there were 20 gallons of wine. Weight of 20 gallons of wine would be approximately 168 pounds, plus or minus, depending on whether it was a sweet wine, since the sugar count in sweet wines makes them slightly heavier. Hashmakaka moaned to himself. This will bring me to ruin, this fruit of the vine. But then the youngest camel cried out, "Look, there, it's Bethlehem. You've made it, Hashmakaka. You are as strong as 10 horses. Hashmakaka knew he could just do it if he didn't stop until he arrived at the spot beneath the star. He could. He knew he could. Isn't there a little bit of that little train that could happening all of a sudden? I think I can if I just don't stop. Just then, out of the growing darkness, a small voice said, "I have a gift for the baby." Hashmakaka looked down on a child, a tiny, tiny child. "Please, child," he said, "no more gifts. It has no weight. It's long and light. It's for the king who is born this night. It's little," the child added. "Too little is too much," Hashmakaka whispered. "Didn't I hear them say you're as strong as 10 horses?" asked the child. "Well, yes, I am, sort of. But my joints, my gout." Those voices just keep going, don't they? I mean, this camel has already gone way beyond his expectations of what his body could do. And yet, Hashmakaka looked into the child's eyes, and his heart melted. "Yes, child, give it to me. This smaller than small gift, what harm can it do? It's for his bed. It's all I have. It was a tiny piece of straw." "No problem at all," said Hashmakaka bravely, if somewhat foolishly. Now, all this time Hashmakaka had kept walking because he knew if he stopped, he would not start again. Now he could see that the star shone down upon a lowly stable. "Child," he said, "do it now. Place your straw upon my back as I approach the new king." Hashmakaka entered the stable. "My knees are loosening, my legs are wobbling, my back is breaking. Will this last straw cause me to fall?" You really gotta watch what you say, don't you? And with that, Hashmakaka fell to his knees. "Oh my," he thought, "this is no way for a camel to behave. They will all say that Hashmakaka, the weak camel, Hashmakaka, the proud camel, should not have traveled this far." The wise men noticed Hashmakaka, and quickly they too knelt. "They're mocking me now," he said, falling on their knees, heads bent over like old gnarled trees. Then from the humble manger, a tiny hand reached out and touched Hashmakaga, and his pain seemed to disappear. He could no longer feel his burden. Hashmakaga whispered to the baby, "Hosanna from Hashmakaga. Accept these gifts kindly. They come from far and wide, brought by a beast who once acted blindly. And from that time on, there was no burden, great or small, that Hashmakaga could not, would not gladly carry." So, I find the story delightful. But there are a few bottom lines in this story. The first and most obvious is that when we are in alignment with our true purpose, we can do much more than we think we can do. The second point, I think, is that there will always be those voices in our heads that tell us that we can't do what we are called by our hearts or by life to do. There will always be voices that say that we are too old or too tired or too weary or too confused or too uneducated or too something. But if we make up our minds and follow our hearts and come from love, even with those voices, loud though they may be, well, the result can be miraculous. I find the end of this story interesting, and honestly, I didn't see it at first. I wasn't sure why, from that time on, there was no burden, great or small, that Hashmakaga would not gladly carry. What was that about? I can be slow to catch on, can't we all? Hashmakaga certainly was not seeing that, in spite of his arguments to the contrary. He was, in fact, carrying everything, and kept doing more. But back to my point about the end of the story. Hashmakaga was touched by the baby. In this case, for the story's sake, it was a physical touching. But the message, I believe, is that he was blessed by realizing how important his role in life really was. When we are touched by that, when we become aware of that Christ consciousness, spirit awareness within us, we too are blessed. And we come to know that there is nothing that can challenge us that we can't handle. Because being who we are and what we are unlimited. And when we open our hearts, when we take the one more step, when we out of love do the one more thing that life calls us to do, we open our lives to the miraculous. And the miraculous becomes us. And we create miracles. I love that our little camel, who complained all the way through the story about his gout and his joints, once he had a sense of his own part in the story, from that time on, there was no burden, great or small, that he would not gladly take on. So I guess my question for you is, do you realize your importance in the story? Do you realize how everything that you do with love and with commitment makes a difference? They're telling us basically that Hashmagaka no longer complained about his aches and pains. I suspect they didn't go away completely, yet they might have. But he didn't care anymore. His focus wasn't all on that. And so all of that was not getting worse, but his life was getting better. So, how does that relate to you? How can you make the moral of that story the moral of your life? It's such a sweet story, isn't it? Oh, it looks like you are all in the spirit. Oh, let's see. I clearly have some catching up to do. Rocking with Christmas tunes and sunshine smiles. I like that. Yeah, it's a California kind of Christmas day, isn't it? Even though it's not yet Christmas Day. But it is a California good day. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Oh. Oh, my friends, you are all already in such a good mood. It's a sweet story, isn't it, Kirk? I loved it too. And when I first said, okay, whatever story you've chosen, just give me that, and I'll make it something to talk about. And I thought, a camel, an overloaded camel. Well, okay, we can work with that. I love the story. It is so sweet, and while it proclaims to be a children's story, I really think it's a grown-up story. Quit complaining. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are? How healthy would you be if you didn't know how sick you are? How well would you be if you knew how much God you are, how much spirit you're filled with, how much love has gone into the making of you? That's the point, Jennifer. Bingo. We are Hashmakaga on many days. All of us are. There are days when I don't want to get out of bed, days when, when the reasons are reasonable, and days when the reasons are maybe not so reasonable. But we all have those days. And we keep going because we've given our word, because we've committed to it, because it needs to get done, because we're the one to do it, all of those things. Yeah, it really is kind of an updated little engine that could, isn't it? Except it has become a Christmas story. I often feel like I'm preaching to the choir when I talk to you guys, but I always hope that there's somebody hanging around in the background who's going, oh, yeah. Yeah. See, Jen, I think you can choose that. I think you can. I mean, you can't choose it and wake up tomorrow and be 30. But you can choose it and wake up tomorrow and feel 30. And have pep in your step, because your step is important, because your life is contributing to the good in the world, because your joy is bringing joy to others, because your life is important. Because you are, in fact, spirit expressing. And wouldn't you rather express as joy and health and wholeness and capability and, well, fill in your own words. Wouldn't you rather express as that rather than groan and moan about your sciatica and your joints and your gout and all the rest of those things that poor Hashimakaga spent most of the story complaining about, and yet, he kept getting up and moving on, just like we all do. Oh, Jen, I don't know how you could love more. You're pretty good in the love department. We could all probably complain less. And most of that complaining, once you're a metaphysical person, tends not to be out loud, does it? Because you know better. You don't want to create, but it's still in our head. It's still creating what we don't want. So we need to realize, I think, rather than just, I'm not going to complain anymore, but it's still going on up here. Instead of that, what we need to do is replace that with something better. Replace that complaining with the awareness that we are a place where creation is, where spirit is, where joy is, where love is. And let that be more important than our gout and our joints. But Kirk, see, I think you're all pretty much there. I think you're already pretty much there. I mean, it's, that 5-year-old is still contained within that body that you're sitting there with today. If you want it, and who wouldn't? Why not just choose to be it? It's all in your head, isn't it? Isn't it? See, I think your love certainly is already boundless. Just get the joy on track. Cancel out those voices. Stop. I think we have to stop every once in a while and just listen to what's going on in our heads. On good days, there's probably a rollicking party going on there. A bunch of 5 to 10-year-olds just having a really good creative time. And on bad days, there's, the board of directors meeting. You should have done this, you should have done that, let's hear a report on this. You didn't do that fast enough, you did that poorly, blah, 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 blah. Fire them. All those stodgy old grown-ups. Keep the experts, keep the ones you appreciate. Keep them. But that group of people that's going fire up, get them out of there. What I know is that if we stop long enough to really listen to those voices, because we hear the words, blah, 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 blah. Stop and listen to the voices. I'll bet you can figure out who they are. And there's that first boss that fired you. There's that school teacher who told you didn't have what it takes. There's that relationship that told you how bad you were. They're all in there. They're all in there. We need to fire them. We need to tell them to get the heck out. Get out of my head. Get out of my head. Get out of my life. Stop trying to run things. I don't want you there anymore. And I think we'll be surprised if we do that at just how many old relationships, old people will still carrying around with us that we thought we had left behind ages ago. But they left recordings of their thoughts and their voices, and they play them back for us. Or we play them back for us. so that we have reasons for what we perceive to be our limitations. Reasons for what we perceive to be our limitations. But as children of creation, we really have none. We really have none. You are Spirit's child. You are amazing. You can do so much more than you think you can do. But you have to know it. You have to get beyond your own perceived limitations into your limitlessness. You are created in the image and likeness of creation itself. Going back to Kirk's thing, because I love it so much. He said it would be 5. I wouldn't know my limits. Well, who taught you the limits, Kirk? When you were a child, you knew you didn't have any. You didn't have any. Like the song says, you've got to be carefully taught. Before you are 6 or 7 or 8. Yeah, the song goes on too in horrible ways. To hate all the people your relatives hate, you've got to be carefully taught. So we were taught, mostly by people who meant well, or who thought they knew and so just passed on their limits. If I can't do it, certainly you can't do it. How about you unlearn your limits? Laura says sometimes it's like herding kittens. A lot of times it's like herding kittens. But if we stop, see, I think the problem is most of the time we are on automatic. And so those thoughts go through and we just accept them because they're there. And it's what we've always thought, or it's what we've thought for a very long time. Or it's something we were taught by someone that we respected, someone that we thought knew what they were talking about. Kirk, may I suggest that you just meet up with Hazel. Don't wait for her to catch up with you. Go to her, grab her hands, grab her heart, grab her little life, and take her with you. Yeah. It's one of the reasons children are so good to be around, isn't it? Because they remind us that we were that once. And can be again. You can know that joy. You can know that sense of limitlessness. You can know that sense of unbounded power, of unlimited possibility. You can be king of the mountain again. Or a princess, or whatever you want to be. What do you want to be? Okay, so if we could wave a magic wand, and each of you could be exactly what you wanted to be in the minute. You don't have to stick with it. You can change it any moment. But you could be anything you wanted to be in this minute. What would it be? What would it be? I'll start. If I could be anything I wanted to be, I'd probably love to be me just starting my ministry all over again. It was such an exciting time, such a wonderful time. There was so much joy and passion and possibility. in it. Now, can I go, oh, woe is me, that time is past, I was there, it was wonderful, oh, woe is me. Or can I say, okay, what got me there? What made me think like that? What opened all those doors? What got me so excited? Where did the passion come from? And go back and find it again and do it again. Have it again. Feel it again. Be there now. Be here now like that. It wasn't about the time and the place and the people, although the people were wonderful. But a lot of you are still here, so Jennifer wanted to be Jesus when she was 5 or 6. Do you still want to be? I mean, not that it's been there, done that. What would that consciousness and that life and that person look like in you, as you, through you now? Go there. Go there. You are already a highly spiritual being. He was a spiritual being having human experience. So are you. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Kirk. I agree with you. You know, sometimes we just need to listen to the voices that are saying something good to us. We tend to memorize the ones that hurt and carry them around. And the ones that ring true, that touch our hearts, that lift us up, we kind of hear and then let go of, because it's like we're not quite ready to believe that about ourselves. Believe that. Believe that. What would you be? How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are? What would you be if you didn't know what you are? What would you be if you could be anything? Because you can. You can. It's never too late. Be who you dream of being. It starts from the inside out. It's not an outside job. You could put on a Jesus outfit and look like Jesus. People do that all the time. Mostly people think they're crazy. But what if you said, but what is it about that I wanted when I was 5, when all things were possible? What is it I wanted? And go be that. Go be that. Be loving and accepting and powerful and miracle working and filled with the joy of knowing that spirit is your parentage, that your DNA is holy. Why not? Why not? Why not be that? I hear that, Brenda. And Jessica is still in your life, and your life is enriched by the grandchildren. And aren't there times when this feels just like the Burbank Church, minus the music, because they won't let us play the music? Doesn't it? And what if we could find the joy in that and figure out how we could make it even more like that? What else can we do? Think on that. You've got a wonderful brain. Think on that. How can we make this feel like that? All of you, there's a homework assignment for you. How can we make this feel like that? How can we add the joy and the excitement and the sense of possibility to this? Will you do that for me? All of you? Will you put your minds to that? Will you pray on that? How can we make this feel like that? What would it take? What could we add to it to make it feel like that? Think on that. Pray on that. And let me know what you come up with. Then we can all get passionate and excited all over again. And wouldn't that be wonderful if we just kind of kicked it up a few notches? Yes, Laura, yes. A mindful community of love and possibilities. Unlimited possibilities. Unlimited love. Why not? We can do that. We can do that. What's it going to take? How do we do that? How do we do it? There's your homework assignment. Like you have nothing else to do this Christmas week. But you know, your mind is full of, hi Dana, hello darling, glad you're here. We're speaking in this moment of what we could be if we didn't know what we are. It started with Satchel Paige and how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were. But now the question is, what could you be if you didn't know what you think you're stuck being? What did your 5-year-old imagine, your 6-year-old imagine, your 8-year-old imagine you could be that you've talked yourself out of since then, and maybe you need to talk yourself back into? Which then got us to, what could this be? Our gathering, our mindful community of love and possibilities. How can we create differently, of course, but that spirit that you felt when you walked into Spiritworks, that sense of love and creativity and endless possibility. So, homework assignment. Think on these things. What can we do to recreate that? Here. I mean, people are recreating themselves and their businesses over and over and over again during this pandemic, aren't they? Aren't they? If you can't get people in, how do you keep the doors open? If yeah, the previous suggestions are great, but let's keep going. Let's really think on this. Would you please? I would appreciate it so much. That would be such a fabulous Christmas present for me. If you would all put your marvelous minds. Why do you keep showing up? What's working for you? What could be even better? How do we recreate that sense of openness and love and acceptance and joy and unlimited possibility? Work on that, please. We'll talk again on Wednesday, shall we? I would love that so much. I would love that so much if you would all do that for me. What a great gift that would be. So, in the meantime, I'd like to pray. So, if you have prayer requests, please pop them in. Dana, isn't it great? Now, see, here's something we've got that's even better. Oh, dear Cac's got 2 camel songs. I'm worried. Now I've lost my train of thought. Shoot. Oh, and I had such a good thought. I'm sure
Wouldn't
I did.
it be great?
Now it's gone.
Oh, sure.
It may come back. Ah, Jen. One of our chosen children. I'm so sorry. How fortunate he was to have had you in his life. And I'm going to assume you were also fortunate to have him. I know it's your birthday, Dana. The 22nd. Why your birthday is one that I always remember is beyond me. But I do. I have to stop and think about my children's. Yours, I know. So happy early birthday. And I hope you're with us Wednesday. Unless something really great shows up, in which case it's an excused absence and we'll catch up with you. Jen and Kirk, I'm so sorry for your loss. It is a horrible thing to lose a child. And I think sometimes, well, not worse, but a chosen child is a very special child. One that we have taken into our hearts and homes on purpose. That's hard to lose. I'm so sorry. Stay with the sweet memories. And find what you love most about him and incorporate that into your life in honor of him. Then we will love and honor him as well. What's his name? Kirk, one of the things that I love the most about you, and there's a whole long list, but one of the things I love the most is how deeply and gently and greatly you love. You are just a shining example. Thank you. Myron Williams. Okay, Myron. Safe, sweet journey. Okay, let's pray, and we'll put Myron in our prayers too. Thank you for being a chosen one, Kirk. Thank you. And his mom, Tracy. Okay, got it. Got it. Let me start and just guys are so terrific. Let me start. And if you think of things, please put them in. Remember, you have a homework assignment this week. Pray on, think on how we can make this even better. Even better. So that we can all recreate that sense of excitement and motivation and power. Okay? I'm going to ask you simply to go within, do that in whatever way is best for you. And I want you to picture that you are lighting a candle within you. Watch it light, watch the flame spread, watch the warmth grow, watch the light become brighter as candles do. And know that that candle is your spiritual consciousness. It represents that within you. It is a visual representation of the light within you. And just as easily as you have just now lit that candle, so you can always light that candle, even in the darkest moments, even in the greatest confusion. Even when it feels like the darkness is moving across the face of the waters and everything is void, you can light the candle. It is always there. You have only to imagine it, and it is done, and it will take you to this place of knowing and power and limitlessness that is within you. And we will light our candles again on Wednesday night and feel the light and the warmth and the love and the power, and we will all be together wherever we are. Lighting our candles in the darkness, lighting up the world. And as we light our candles in that knowing, in that power, we speak our word and know that that which we claim from this place within us is reality. Period. End of statement. Is true. And so I know, and so I speak my word, knowing that it carries power and it carries possibility, unlimited possibility. And so that which we claim becomes reality. And so I know for Lynn Tucker, who is in Colorado, that there is pain-free healing from the lung transplant that he has just experienced. And that his renewal and recreation is swift and miraculous. And I know for Tucker, peace of mind and rest and renewal as well, and the strength to do what needs to be done, knowing that she has within her the unlimited power of God. I know for Patricia, healing and renewal and the revealing of the truth of her being, and peace, peace, peace. I know that Brenda is getting everything done that needs to be done in preparation for going to Florida. That it is all coming together easily and effortlessly and joyously as she pictures in her mind being there with Jessica and with the children. And there is nothing but joy in her heart. I know for Laura that her cousin's family in Texas is at peace with her cousin's passing. That everything is coming together for the greatest good, and that peace prevails, and that love dominates. I know for the family and friends, all of those who have loved him, peace in their hearts over the passing of Myron Williams, and especially in Tracy's heart, peace, understanding. That when they think of him, they think of the joy and the love and the sweetness of his being. And everything else pales in comparison to that. And every thought of him brings joy and love and warmth and healing for those who loved him and continue to love him. And I know for those who are with us today and those who are with us in spirit, peace of mind, joy in this season. Peace that passes understanding. Joy that passes limitation. Love that redeems and renews and lifts and lightens. I know that we have created here a spiritual family and that we all work together for good. And there is peace and joy in knowing that. And so I am thankful, deeply, deeply thankful for the miracles that are wrought here today. For the peace and joy and healing, whether it was openly asked for or simply acknowledged and known. I know that each one of us is in a higher and a better place today for having been here. And I know that that which needs to be healed is healed, and that which needs to be accepted is accepted with joy and love. And that there is peace in each of our hearts. And I am grateful for all of that, for all of the good that has taken place here today and will continue to take place because of what was thought and felt and said here today. This is an unlimited place, and I am grateful. And let it be so, and know that it is so, and so it is. I love the way you love and support one another. It is joyous to see. Thank you for being here today. Bring your light and your inner candle on Wednesday if you can. We will do a sort of Christmas Eve candle lighting on Christmas Eve. Or is that Eve? I think there's 3 Eves. Happy solstice. May the week that is to come be one of the happiest and most peaceful and most joyous of your lives. Don't forget to listen to the camel song.
Z.
Z. Two camel songs. Two camel songs. As if one camel song wouldn't be enough, we have two.
That's right.
Happy Christmas week. I love you all. I'll see you Wednesday. And so it is.